My last video about the X-H2S version 6 firmware contains some errors, and I wanted to do a quick correction follow-up to that video because it's definitely leading some people astray and putting out some wrong information. So I want to own up to that. I was very excited about the version 6 firmware because it contains a feature that I think could be very important to certain types of videographers, filmmakers, and that is the touch tracking feature. I wanted to make a video just sort of giving an overview of some of the new features in version 6 and also talk about why I think that touch tracking can be such an important feature. But in my rush to put out that video, I didn't take enough time and do enough due diligence to figure out the new autofocusing mode that was implemented to go along with touch tracking, namely the wide autofocus, continuous autofocus mode. In the main roll of that video, you can see that the focus is drifting in and out. And I could see while I was recording the video that I didn't have a tracking box on my eye, and I could see that it was kind of struggling to focus. And I was like, you know, I don't know what's going on. I tried different settings and nothing really seemed to work. So I thought I would just leave it because I thought maybe something had been messed up with the firmware, but that's incorrect. So I've been working on a follow-up video going through the different continuous autofocusing modes on the camera for video, and I've learned that the wide autofocus mode, which was introduced in version 6, is mainly or really only meant to implement the touch tracking feature. If you're not using touch tracking in that wide mode, it doesn't really seem like the face and eye detect modes work. So in that video, I'm going in and out of focus because I'm using the wide autofocusing mode, and it just doesn't work that way. So I wanted to set the record straight. I think that you can go ahead and upgrade to the version 6 firmware, especially if you are looking forward to that touch tracking feature. And I also wanted to let you know that I have a more in-depth dive into how the autofocus is working on the X-H2S, specifically for video. And I go through the 3 different modes, so that's multi, area, and wide, and test them out in a couple of different scenarios. I also try out animal eye detect a little bit here and there. It's not really best practices because there's just so many different variables, especially when it comes to the tracking sensitivity and the speed in which the lens is going to rack focus. I also only have 2 lenses to test, 2 Fujinon lenses, the 16mm f1.4, which I'm shooting this video on, and the 33mm f1.4. A lot of people in the comments, and this is sort of like general knowledge about Fujifilm, especially for video, is that the older lenses, the ones with stepping motors in particular, tend to not work very well for continuous autofocus. And I don't know that it's quite as simple as that. I am using the 16mm for this video. The reason that I was also really interested in the touch tracking is because in my limited experience with this camera, I had just kind of set it up and let it rip and recorded, I think, 3 videos, sort of talking to camera videos, and they all worked flawlessly. Just using the eye detect, it seemed like it was like on par with Sony in that use case in particular. And the thing that kind of tripped me up was Sony also has a wide focusing mode. And I guess essentially the way that works is the camera just has the entire frame or the entire array of autofocusing points to search for the subject, whether that's human, eye, animal, etc., etc. And I assumed, wrongly, and you know what they say about assuming, that the Fuji wide autofocus would work the same. But that's what multi does in Fujifilm, and that already was in there. So if you want to have all of the autofocusing points set up and the camera be ready to sort of scan the entire sensor or the entire array and pick a subject like it's doing now, then that's what multi is, and that's not what wide is. The information in that previous video about the version 6 firmware, all of the updates, and also the touch tracking, the tests that I did, I think are still relevant. It's really just that main talking head section that's drifting in and out of focus that you can completely disregard. But everything else in that video, I think, still is applicable and still has information about the version 6 firmware if you're looking for it. So yeah, just wanted to say I messed up and I'm trying to set the record straight. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you know where to go. Shaking this table.